Welcome to Iceland, a truly magical and mystical island. Do you know, when our creator was moulding this place, he must have had fishing on his mind.
This is the story of a remarkable island. An equally remarkable man who is forging a new future for salmon fishing here, and an angler whose confidence has taken a battering this season as he enjoys one of those lean spells that haunts every fisherman once in a while. And that's me, by the way. The setting for this story is a river called the Breiðarsá, situated to the east of Iceland. The Breiðarsá is 30 kilometres long and is home to sea trout, Arctic char, and what I've come in search of, Atlantic salmon. Now, although Iceland's rivers are a popular haunt for game fishers from around the world, the salmon here are generally not that huge, averaging around 8 to 10 pounds. However, on the Breiðarsá, things are a little different. Not long before my arrival, a 29-pounder was caught, and the number of larger fish is increasing year by year. And that's down in no small way to the efforts of this man, Throster Ellison. Anyway, more of Thruster's pioneering work a bit later. It's mid-July, the height of the season over here, and Thruster has kindly invited me to spend a few days at his lodge. He's also provided me with one of his guides, a smashing chap called Jonas, who I hope will be able to steer me out of the fishing doldrums, which has haunted me for the last couple of months. Jonas is not only a top guide with the patience of a saint, he also has a sense of humour that would make the many hours we were to spend together seem to fly by, as we covered vast sections of river in pursuit of what for me were proving to be the ever more elusive salmon.
You know, there's no salmon in Iceland, really. It's a fairy tale, just like theirs.
Really?
Yeah. But your casting is improving.
Why are you yawning?
I wasn't yawning.
You were yawning?
I was
You were definitely yawning.
not yawning. See there, I just yawned. You didn't notice it.
Sure I can get down there.
Want a hand?
In terms of tackle and tactics, it's all pretty simple. I'm using a straightforward floating line and a selection of flies that most salmon fishers around the world would recognise, including stoats tails, cascades and the fast-stripped sunray shadow. Now, I've already mentioned my lean spell, and it's not being helped by the fact that when I chat with the other guys back at the lodge, they all seem to be catching left, right and centre. I'm really starting to feel as though I've got some sort of jinx. But whilst I may not be catching, what I am doing is getting a wonderful sightseeing tour of this quite extraordinary country. Iceland, in terms of human civilization, is a real latecomer. It's believed by some people that Scottish missionaries first came here sometime in the 8th century. But it's generally acknowledged that the first proper settlers were Norsemen, or Vikings as I would call them, a real hardy bunch who arrived here in 874.
Imagine you're one of the very first settlers on this lovely island all those hundreds of years ago. You look around you and you think, pasture, lakes, rivers. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous. But you see marsh, and your experience of northern Scotland and of Norway is marsh means mosquitoes and, we'll get bitten to death. But you needn't have worried, because there are no mosquitoes on this island. And you think snakes? Oh, I don't like snakes. But again, you're in the clear because there are no snakes, no other reptiles, or amphibians, frogs or newts for that matter. And you think, well, this is wonderful. And if you're like me and you hate spiders, you think, what's it like? Again, you're in the clear because the biggest spider on this island is about that big. It's an arachnophobe's paradise. And you start to wonder then, well, what is here? Well, I tell you, you share this island with one other mammal, and that is this little fella down here. This is the Arctic fox, or reva, as they call it in Icelandic. Now, don't worry. We're not going to try and convince you that this one is anything other than stuffed. Now, these guys have been on the island since the Ice Age, some 10,000 years ago. And they're very, very abundant on the island even now. There are lots of them. But this little chap, and this is his winter fur, by the way, his summer coat would be a lot browner, is very useful to us anglers because the fur takes dye very easily and it's very mobile. And when tied on a fishing fly, it gives the impression of life, which is exactly what we want. These guys make cracking fishing flies.
Anyway, time to talk about the success story which is the Breiðarsá, with its increased quality and quantity of salmon. And the man behind it all, Throster Ellison. Throster first started experimenting with fish breeding at the tender age of 5, much to the annoyance of his mother, who would often come home to find her kitchen sink full of Arctic char. He went on to train in fish farming in Norway before returning to Iceland in 1984 to put what he had learned into action. Since then, he has gone on to become recognised throughout the world as a real master of the art, which he practices on his beloved Breiðarsá, the river where he caught his first salmon as a boy.
I can't quite get my head round whether you're a fisherman that likes fishing and wants to catch more fish, or whether you've just had this inbuilt natural tendency to want to breed fish for the, not really for the hell of it, but to prove that you can do it. Which one is it?
Both. I love to create something. I mean, I have, well, been involved with fishing, have fishing all my life, and
You were expecting a pull there, weren't you? That's why you stopped talking. Was that a fish followed it?
I wasn't sure, but I was just, trying to...
Do you know the thing that impresses me? Yes, you've got this love of and this passion for the river, etc. But it's a family affair, isn't it? We're here, your family is supporting you, they're with you, your wife works very hard in the lodge to make everything work, and your kids are there. It must be great fun, yeah?
Yeah, great. Up! Don't you see the take?
Do you want me to take the rod?
Absolutely not.
It's in your blood, I can tell. You're trying to talk to me and thinking, why doesn't he go away and let me concentrate on the lip there?
I'm just on the edge.
The reason, not only for the increase in numbers but also the increasing size of salmon on the Breiðarsá, is because of the great care and attention to detail given during the stocking programme. The process begins when Throster, or one of his associates, catches suitable breeding fish which are native to the river. And I was lucky enough to be able to see the very first breeding fish caught this season. Now, I was supposed to be helping Throster give the fish the once-over, but something tells me I'm not destined for life as a fish wrangler.
That fish was very, very strong. Very, very strong. You said, hold the fish, hold the fish, hold the fish.
Now, this beautiful henfish, which weighs over 20 pounds, will be one of 40 or 50 henfish and 20 or 30 cockfish selected for the breeding programme. Throster has found that by using big, healthy fish to breed from, it produces big, healthy offspring. It sort of makes sense, really. But I've had more than one conversation with fish scientists in the UK who have told me that you can't predetermine the size of salmon. However, Throster seems to be doing just that. Around October-November time, the salmon are stripped for eggs, which are then fertilised. It all takes place in a hatchery way up in a nearby valley, and it's here that I'm shown the fruits of last autumn's labours.
So, these tanks here, what do they contain?
These are fish that came out of the eggs in about the period February, April.
What I can see is their reaction to us coming here is to group into the balls that you actually see in the ocean.
Yes.
The protective balls. And I can see little fish.
Throster and his team are now producing 200,000 salmon par per year, and he's careful to ensure that the light and temperature levels in here are exactly the same as they would be in the wild. The next process happens in smolt ponds situated up and down the river. In this one smolt pond, there were originally 40,000 fish. Most of them have already migrated to the sea, but there are some 5,000 that are still here getting ready to leave. For those of you unfamiliar with a salmon's life cycle, when a salmon gets to the stage when it's ready to leave the safety of a river for a life in the open sea, it's called a smolt. And wherever this process happens, where it turns from a parr into a smolt, that location will imprint itself on the young salmon's memory, and thanks to hugely sensitive sensory organs, akin to our nose or taste buds known as nares, it's able to recognise the taste of not only the river it came from, but also which part of that river.
So, in 2 years' time, if I were fishing the main river immediately opposite where all this water flows back into the main river, I could be catching these fish as adults.
Yeah.
So you get through some trout pellet in a year, don't you?
Oh yes. So.
Wow. So we've got them to pre-smolt, we
Yep.
put them in this pond, and there's an inlet here, obviously,
Yep.
and that outlet goes to where?
And it goes out to the other side through the pipe, and from the pipe they go straight to the waterfall.
So the guys have dropped down the waterfall. They're not going to go straight away. Some hang around here.
Yeah, some hang around here, they like the deep, but most of them go fairly soon down. But I'm sure there are a few left.
Crumbs of thousands.
Yes, yes, absolutely. They're on the way to the sea.
And when would you start to worry in the season if you still had the fish here?
In a couple of weeks, I will start to be worried. But they are going out in the next dark night we have. You know, it's so sunny and bright.
Yeah.
They are waiting for the dark night to come or something, and then they feel safe and go out in a big groups.
Of the 40,000 fish that will leave this particular smolt pond, only 1 or 2% will ever make it back. But the ones that do seem to be big and strong. From the vantage point of a bridge, Jonas and I can see 3 salmon. And one of them is a bit of a beast.
See how big he is compared to the other ones.
Yeah. There's one brother about 6 pound, he's about 20 pound, isn't
hell.
he? Yeah. At least 20. Definitely 20.
It's so frustrating because we can see the smudges that we know are the fish, but it's going to be horrendously difficult to go for them, especially in this strong wind.
What do you think? 20 miles an hour?
15 meters per second.
15 meters per second.
That's how we measure it. You can.
That's how you Icelanders measure
Yeah.
it. Why do you Icelanders complicate everything?
We? You're still using miles. Pounds.
Well, miles
driving
per
on the
hour.
left side.
Are you sure we can walk down here?
No.
With the fish somewhere ahead of us, Jonas decided to get a bird's eye view to help me target the elusive monster. But it was always going to be a long shot. We spent the afternoon fishing in some of the most beautiful places I've ever had the pleasure of carrying a rod. I knew I was blessed to be slap bang in the middle of a fishing wonderland. The only thing missing, however, was a fish.
If I fall in from here, I'm not going to have any worries at all, am I?
No.
Well, goodbye for now if I don't see you again, okay?
It's been a pleasure.
One thing tourists are often told about Iceland is that a third of the inhabitants here believe in elves. But when I broach the subject with people, expecting them just to laugh and dismiss it as a bit of fun for the tourists, I got a very different reaction. I met many sane and credible people who actually claimed to have seen them, and almost everyone I spoke to knew someone who'd seen them. Interestingly enough, that night, as I was sharing a beer under the midnight sun with a friend of mine, Jon, who was a carpenter from Reykjavik, he revealed to me that he was very much a non-believer. Or rather, he was, until one day, about 15 years ago, when Throster asked him if he would mind checking out reports of poachers by the very waterfall I'd been fishing a few hours earlier.
When I got maybe 100 yards to the waterfall, I saw at least 3 persons standing there very close to or just outside in the river a little bit, you know. I went even closer, maybe 50 yards, and I started to wonder, oh my God, this people are very short and.
Were they what, 2 feet tall or 3? What do you think?
Over 3 or 4 feet maybe.
So you knew they weren't human?
I knew.
Straight away?
Straight away.
Why? What did you see that was different?
Well, they were so short and they looked different. You know, they were flashy dressers. You know.
Describe me the people you saw.
Give you some idea. You remember those spaghetti westerns with Clint Eastwood?
Spaghetti western, yeah. I remember that.
You know, when you had that whale, what do you call this? You know, that over his.
The cape.
The cape.
The cape.
They were very similar to that.
They didn't say anything to you?
They didn't say anything. They just looked at me and just glanced at me, and that's about it. And my God, as I mentioned earlier, there was a few gates on the way, and I just wanted to run them down, you know.
Really? Now.
But I didn't. I opened it, but I never looked back. And,
you didn't look back?
I was so shook up, you know, I couldn't sleep for at least 1 or 2 days.
Really? So this experience that you've had, I mean, has it changed you in any way?
Yes. Well, they sure made me a believer, that's for sure.
You notice there's an absence of the sort of follow me or can I carry the rod or, you know, we're going to fish here. It's just walk off and you trudge after them and carrying everything, sorting everything out.
Bugger off, get in.
Bugger off, get in. Right.
This morning, Jonas, for some reason best known to himself, seems particularly confident.
See the rock red breaks?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
He'll be sitting in the shade of that big rock.
That's where they are.
You're convinced there's fish there?
There's always fish there.
Always. Let's hope they're playing this morning.
Well, I'm not so convinced that you could get it. Come on.
Your reputation's at stake. I haven't
is.
got a reputation for catching fish, but you've got a reputation here for being the one who leads people into fish.
Thanks. Faster.
Fish on. Good advice. Yup. I hate it when he shakes his head like that, don't you?
Is he banging his head?
Yeah.
I mean, usually it's just on the lip.
Oh, don't say that. Don't you dare start that. I wish I was enjoying this. Oh,
Awful.
awful.
Just
The thing is, when
awful.
you've worked so hard to get a fish on, and you've got a very small fly, and you think, oh no, you know, is he going to come off? But that's just part of the game. He's now woken up to the fact that he's not enjoying this experience any more than I am. Oh, little fish. Come on, fella. Oh,
Bloody hell. He's fat.
he's fat.
He's short and fat.
Oh, come on, fella. We'll be kind to you, I promise. I think all game fishers will know how you feel at this point. You put so much work in and you so desperately just want to land the fish and you're playing around with it and you think, oh, is he going to get off? And people say, do you enjoy playing the fish? Well, you would if it was your third or your fourth, but certainly not your first. Certainly not. He's on one end of the line worrying himself silly and I'm on the other end doing exactly the same. We have an Icelandic salmon in the net. Oh, Watford have scored. The world's a nice place. Yona's a good guide. And I'm happy. Oh, thank goodness for that. And it's my very first Icelandic salmon, my very first Icelandic salmon. Oh, am I pleased to see you this morning. Good morning. Good morning. And that is an Icelandic salmon. Beautiful condition. I can't see any sea lice.
There's one here on the back.
Oh yeah, there's a sea lice just on the tail there. It's a hen fish, you can tell by the shape of the mouth. Let me just put it back in just to have a gasp. An absolutely pristine condition. 72 centimetre, about 11 pound?
5.5 kilos.
5.5 kilos. And if you're going to catch a salmon, why not a beautiful fish like that? Beautifully proportioned. Oh, it's like we would call it a bar of silver. And what do you call it what's like bar of silver in Icelandic?
Silfurbjartur.
I'm not going to say that, but I agree with it entirely. So I think the important thing is now you can see the bubbles come in from the fish's gills. What it's actually doing, it's recovering condition now, it's blowing the lactic acid off its gills. So the sooner we get this guy back, the better. And I don't often kiss fish, but I'm really, really in love with this one. Last look, gorgeous fish. It's made my day. Magic.
And just like buses, 10 minutes later and further along the river, and I'm into another fish.
Start to look.
Oh,
fish on.
he's on! Look at that! Look at that! Oh! Wow, did you see that? Yeah!
Just a small grilse this time, but very welcome. And perhaps, just perhaps, my lean spell could be nearing its end.
He just came and nailed
That
it,
was
didn't
a
he?
good take.
It had been a wonderful trip, but before I left, the crew had somehow talked me into tasting a local delicacy, shark's head. Now you're not going to believe this, it's prepared by being buried in a hole for 12 months, but not before someone has actually peed on it to act as some sort of preservative, I guess. I kid you not, this is actually a local delicacy.
Right.
It's an old tradition, like.
So when was the last time you actually ate this?
8 years ago.
Now you're only 20, Jonas, and have you ate this?
Yeah, about 4 or 5 years ago. And the reason was because, well, I was playing stupid, basically.
Well, the reason I'm eating this is because I'm under great pressure to enjoy a traditional Icelandic
But
dish.
before you taste it, we have
Yes,
to
sir.
be prepared with a special drink here. We call it it's an Icelandic strong spirit called brennivin, or sometimes called as a black death.
Okay.
You take a bite, and then you take a sip of this.
A sip.
Sure, no, just
Finish.
Just the whole shot. Yeah, whole shot.
The whole shot.
Yeah,
One bite.
and then you're a
whole
true
shot.
man. Enjoyable.
Hang on, I don't drink. Here's to Iceland. And guys, thanks for a great trip to Bradelsson. Great guide, great host. Those of you lucky enough to have fished the rivers of Iceland will know this is a very special place, which quickly grabs hold of your heart. And for those of you who have yet to visit, I hope what you're about to see will help you understand just why.
It's mid-July, and this is the River Jökulá, which is situated on the eastern side of Iceland. It's a place that's guaranteed to set a game fisher's pulse racing with its stocks of salmon, sea trout and Arctic char. Having already had a wonderful few days salmon fishing on a neighbouring river called the Breiðá, and wanting to make the very most of my time here on this beautiful island, I had come to the Yorkla in search of Arctic char. Although they've been caught to over 20 pounds here, the average stamp of fish is around 2 to 4 pounds. Like the brown trout, the Arctic char can either spend part of its life cycle at sea or remain in one place. And there are numerous lakes on the island where colonies of Arctic char, who became isolated after the last ice age, can still be found. However, it's their cousins heading back from the sea to spawn in the rivers that I'm after, but to catch them, you have to get the timing right. So a knowledge of tides is pretty essential if you want to avoid half a day's fruitless casting. Luckily for me, I'm in the company of someone who everybody tells me is the man for Arctic char, Sooty Staples. Although he's recognised as an expert guide in these parts, whether you want salmon, sea trout or char, it's the char that are Sooty's real passion. Sooty reckons that about now, and it's mid-morning by the way, the fish should be about to reach our spot, having swum about 8 kilometres upstream from the sea. And if anyone knows about the time of the tides, it's Sooty, because he just happens to have the small matter of 30 years experience as a trawler skipper under his belt.
Well done, Sooty.
It's not very big. I told you it's not big, but it can take out line. It's unbelievable. They don't have to be big. This is just over a pound or something, and it's taking out line.
It's a good fish, good fish.
It's unbelievable how strong they are.
Oh, an Arctic char. Look at that beautiful fish. This fish is about 1.5 pounds, and can we tell whether it's a male or a female, Sooty?
That's a female, probably.
Probably a female. What you have is the silver is almost acting as a disguise, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because just behind the silver I can see the beginnings of pink spots, and as this fish comes into fresh water and starts to ripen and get ready to spawn, the colours that are behind this silver at the moment will become more and more plentiful, and they'll become brighter and brighter until this fish is in fact much more coloured than this, but a beautiful fish.
Earlier in the trip, my friend Throster Eledson, the man who'd invited me to Iceland in the first place and who not only organises fishing trips on the Yorkla and Breiðdalsá, but who's also pioneering the successful salmon stocking in the region, took me to a fish farm where Arctic char are grown to show me just how vivid the colours of these beautiful fish can become.
As the males get older and end up spawning livery, and bear in mind this is broodstock, the colours get more vivid, but they sort of look a lot uglier, don't they? Well, I don't know. I think from a female's point of view, he probably looks beautiful. Fantastic fish. Basically, in tactical terms, this is about as simple as it gets. What I've got to do is get that fly as far out as I possibly can with this single-handed rod, using a floating line and a long leader because the water's very, very clear. Sooty is in fact using an intermediate line because what we're doing is we're fishing as a team. His is about 2 foot below the surface. But this is what you do when you come to a big stretch of water like this. You go, act as a team, search and destroy using different tactics, different flies, see what works, and in about half an hour's time, you bet your bottom dollar we'll both be on the thing that we think is going to work best.
And in terms of flies, we're using Sooty's specifically tied char flies, and I'm not going to insult him by trying to pronounce their names.
Fish on! Yes! Wow!
Yeah?
What a strong fish. That was amazing. I actually saw that fish come for it and nail it. It was amazing.
And I too.
And another one. Sooty's on as well.
Yeah, this is the magic moment.
Oh, the magic moment when the tides come. Come on, fella. On to here, come to Ray. Come on, fella, come on, fella. Beautiful, beautiful char. What I love about these fish is they're really hard fighting. That fish was 1.5 pounds. Took me a couple of minutes to get it in, but you really know you got one of these guys. Absolutely colossal. You know, you talk about game fish. These are game with a capital G. Strong fish, aren't they?
And they just don't give up.
Strange thing. I was thinking that the char fishing would in fact be very, very difficult because they're ephemeral. They could be here one minute, gone the next. They can react to one tide, not to another tide. And all the people I'd met said, "Ooh, char, you never know. It can either happen or it won't." Well, thank goodness this morning it's happened. I suppose the moral of that story is if you're going to come and fish for Arctic char, fish with somebody who really knows what they're talking about.
Well, see how the bend in the rod, this is a 7-weight.
Really?
And they are just so powerful. I have so much respect for them. And they're the hardest ones to catch a lot of times. You always...
Well, you're making it look easy.
Thank you for the fight, darling.
After just over an hour, which had absolutely flown by, I was enjoying myself that much. It was obvious that our window had passed. As we sipped a cup of strong black coffee, Sudi told me that if we'd been power fishing, as he put it, i.e. heads down and none of the chit-chat, we could have easily trebled our catch.
So, 15 fish. We would have had 15 fish.
Yes, because many times when I'm here by myself, I kept maybe 8, 9, 10. So 2 of us should have had more.
If somebody was to come here on holiday, would you be confident of catching 5 fish in an hour and a half like that, or would that be exceptional?
The char is one of the most difficult. You cannot predict the char. You can predict more probably the salmon than the char. We were lucky today. Usually it's patience. You just have to hang and wait for that window to happen.
The one thing you do notice when you travel around Iceland is there's a distinct lack of trees. Those that you do see are quite small. In fact, I haven't seen a big tree anywhere. There's an Icelandic saying which says if you're lost in a forest, stand up. Now, it wasn't always the case, because when the first settlers came to the island, large areas of the island were wooded. What they did though is they used the wood for boat building, for fuel, etc. And they chopped it down in such a way that there was soil erosion. The soil actually blew or got washed away. That made replanting very, very difficult. But I'm pleased to say that in these more enlightened times, people are making a concerted effort to replace the woodland on the island with native species such as birch, aspen and rowan.
Anyway, back to the fishing. During the morning, Sudi told me about a really intriguing part of the river further upstream. So intriguing, in fact, that I decided to abandon my carefully timetabled char fishing for the afternoon to check it out for myself. Taking me there was a guiding colleague of Sudi called Jens, who, although being born in Iceland, had spent almost 20 years in Australia. So his background ensures that he's about as outdoorsy as it's possible to get. At certain times of the year, such as now, the river disappears under these boulders, emerging a few hundred yards further down. At this point, Jens made my heart miss a beat, as he explained that it's not until water is released from a dam further upstream that the salmon can make their way further upriver.
They actually release the overflow, and it will come rushing down here, and makes this gap look like the Atlantic Ocean.
Whoa. Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
How do they know we're not here now and they're just
They
test
absolutely
it?
know. They give you a days and days warning. Besides, this is such a long way, it'll probably take 2 days for the flood to come down.
I'm just trying to get my head round all this. Trying to get my head round it all. Look at that!
That's it. Well,
that's fantastic.
It's beautiful, isn't it? You ready?
Yeah.
I'll push you off.
This was like nowhere I'd ever fished before. And what's more, I could see salmon everywhere. But as I well know, it's one thing seeing them, but catching the little blighters is another thing altogether. And what's more, to say my salmon season this year has been jinxed, well, that's something of an understatement.
I can see 2 salmon as I stand here. It's amazing.
I can see them too.
Yeah? Can you see them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just unbelievable.
He's coming towards you.
I tell you what, I'm going to grab him with a knife between my teeth. Oh, what a caster this boy is.
Absolutely magnificent. Couldn't have done it better myself.
Come on, wait. Come on. There he is. Oh, look at that fish there.
Yeah.
Did you see that fish?
I saw that.
That was a salmon about 20 pound.
That was a good cast. Exactly there where you actually had the fly.
Yeah?
Is a good spot to be in. Now let it float if you possibly can all the way against the rocks here and then drag it home.
Okay. I can see a fish there. Salmon.
It is.
Yeah. You feel an intruder in here, really.
Yeah.
Even though I'm allowed, you feel like a poacher.
No, there's no need to sneak about. That's good.
Yeah?
Shadow,
Trout.
a trout. Þetta sílungur. It's a trout.
Sea trout.
Yes, silvery sea trout.
Sea trout.
How far is that from the ocean, mate?
Yeah. He's come through from the estuary where we were fishing for char, and he's made it all the way up. He's going to spawn with the salmon.
There he goes. Good bite.
Well, that wasn't quite how we planned to release him, but
Absolutely not.
same result. He's gone back anyway.
Yeah, well, good on him.
Don't get me wrong, I love catching sea trout, and it was a beautiful fish, but my mind was fixed on salmon. But was this going to be another one of those days? Well, one thing's for sure, I wasn't going to stop trying.
Come on, Ray.
What?
Up is better.
Okay.
Don't want you to
Are you saving me from myself?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Don't want you to hurt
I'm a
yourself.
fisherman. I'm prepared to die in the process of my sport.
Yeah, I know. But your time is not today.
Time ebbed away and we really needed to be making tracks, but I just couldn't bring myself to leave. One of those fish just had to take my fly.
I think these Icelandic salmon have heard about my reputation, you know.
Let it drift in the same spot. Don't move.
Come on, big fish.
Come on, big fella.
Fish on. Off. Fish on and off.
The phrase absolutely gutted doesn't even come close. That evening back at the lodge, Jens, who also happens to be a very accomplished cook, restored my spirits a little by making a wonderful meal with the Arctic char we'd caught in the morning. But if I'm honest, what I needed most was to catch a salmon. Having snatched a few hours' sleep, my alarm clock rang at 3:15. And the reason for getting up at this ungodly hour was to head down to the coast, where Suddy was keen to catch the early morning tide and, more importantly, some of his beloved Arctic char.
Do you know, it's difficult, really difficult to describe just how mystical and magical this place is. It's almost alien. It's as if you've landed on a different planet. Hey, I hope the natives are friendly.
At high tide, the brackish water of the estuary offers rich pickings for feeding fish. As the tide starts to ebb, it causes the fish to face upstream, which might be all the inducement they need to head further upstream to spawn. But it's not all one-way traffic. They may only go so far and decide it's not quite the right time and head back, repeating the process 8 or 10 times before finally going all the way. So, at 4 o'clock in the morning, as the mist drifted eerily across the bay, we fished.
Come on, fella, come on, fella. Oh! Ah! You rascal.
Do like you did the last time. When you see it's coming,
Yeah.
like you're taking a cast,
Yeah.
you have one smooth motion. A lot
Okay.
of times they will hit it that when it's continuous, the same speed.
Yeah, okay, good advice, thank you. There he comes, 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 there he comes. Oh! That was a big fish, that was a bigger char.
Even though they don't take, it's a lot of fun.
Fun, it's fantastic. Here he comes, here he comes, here he comes, here he comes, he's on, he's on. He's on. Oh, come on, fella. I changed my fly to this orange guy. It's a trout fly I would use back in the UK, and interestingly, tied by a guy who's not with us anymore. So, well done, Alf. And that's a beautiful estuarine Arctic char. I'm pleased with that. I'm really pleased with that. Well done, Sooty.
All right, darling, you're going back. There you go. Don't tell them I'm here. They'll get scared. Well, this one is a good pound. A 4 or 5 pounder. It rips out down to the underline. And the thing about it is, you see I've torn its mouth a little bit. You cannot play these hard because they have soft mouths, so you can tear it out easily out of their mouth. I think he likes the camera. You're famous now. Where are you leaving? I had enough of this.
Sooty could tell that yesterday's lost salmon was still very much on my mind, and so he suggested we hightail it to a spot further upriver where he thought I'd be in with a good shout. And you know what? He was right.
He's got it. Exactly where it's talking about.
Nice fish. Feels good fish. Right over on the far side there. In this fast current, it felt like a rock for a minute. Come on, fella. Oh,
Do I really need to add anything? With my confidence at an all-time low, Sooty knew that the best remedy was to get me a salmon. So he got on the phone, and the next thing I knew, we'd embarked on what was to be a 5-mile journey along the river. And I do mean driving along the river. However, I was not the only person experiencing a bit of bad luck.
we've come 2 miles up the floodplain in this car, and just when you get confident and think, wow, Nothing else can happen. That does.
This is the car of a local farmer who is going to show us a new potential salmon pool that had not been fished in living memory. Yes, Iceland really is that untouched. But he got himself a bit stuck. Now back home in England, this would be a bit of a major incident. Here though, they just shrug their shoulders, accept that these things happen when you're living the big outdoor life, and just calmly sort it out. Well, I fished the untouched pool, which absolutely screamed fish. But hey, it's me out there, so still no luck. But Suddy wasn't prepared to give up on me. He knows just what it's like to go through one of these lean spells. So having dropped me off at a pool a quarter of a mile further along,
He's on his way, look at this. He's using the current to get right away from me, but... What a fish though, what a run! Oh, he's seen you. What a fish! Oh, what a fish. And after all those fish that have just gone and off, when you finally nail that fish after so much effort and so much work's gone in by the whole team, the people here and everything else, it is a prize, and bugger me, that's a prize. Look at that fish, hard earned. There it is, it's about 15 pounds. I can't see.
Yeah, sea lice.
Oh, sea lice on it. A sea lice 15-pound fish. And now she has to go back. She's just jettisoned some lactic acid off, and I've got a feeling this girl will kick hard. But what I'll do, I'll just hold her a wee bit longer. Come on, you go. See you later. On you go, babes.
and as that beautiful fish swam away, I could think of no better way to end my visit to this very special island.